Howdy folks, Max Caveman here, bringing you back to my journey to the Pokemon 2024 World Championships. Um, this is a recap for the event in March 2024. So, of the events that I could have attended, there were 4 challenges only, and I did have to miss one. Sadly, I had car troubles, so I couldn't actually make it to the event, which sadly is the only reason that I had to skip that one event. So I did attend 3 challenges in total, and with these events, these are the last of the Paradox Rift format. After this, in April, all events are going to be post-rotation, so all E-Block cards will be rotating out. So a couple of people were trying, sort of like last hurrahs for an older format. So that's why some of the cards are on here, or decks, sorry. But let's have a look, shall we? Starting off with, we have a challenge on the 17th of March. This was a best of 3 tournament. We did 4 rounds. So starting off the day, I ended up going up against a Roaring Moon EX. Usually I hadn't really experienced Roaring Moon too much, so wasn't too sure going into it how to deal with it. But I did work out that my main strategy would be to take out Moltres and any moons that were slightly powered up. Because the main issue with Roaring Moon is once they get 2 moons powered up, usually they have enough momentum to swing it out. But I ended up going 2-0 against it, so end up with that win. It was fantastic to see, because Moon might see more play now with rotation, so I need to know the matchup. Round 2, I faced off against Peony Miraidon. So this is Miraidon hands with Peony, so that you can, ideally, if you go second, you can get a turn 1 Iron Hands knockout with Amp You Very Much. So it's hyper consistent. I faced this opponent multiple times with this same deck, and my Golden Go just sadly couldn't get hits done. They just took too many early knockouts, and I end up going 0-2 there for a loss. Round 3, very interesting deck. At one of the most recent regionals, there was the Steelix Dodrio deck shown on stream a couple of times, and someone actually brought it to one of the local events. So I was facing off against Steelix Dodrio. The main premise of this deck, if you haven't heard of it, is basically to put a whole bunch of damage onto your Pokemon to then do increasingly more damage based on the damage that they have on their Pokemon. Mainly the Dodrio going up, and the Steelix helps damage it. Big thing I failed to recognize is that the Steelix does 130 damage, and when you have a Radiant Greninja on the field with 130 health, it does throw things off a little bit. But ultimately, we went 1-1, and my opponent actually gave me the Game 3 win. We were setting up, and he's just like, I'm just going to scoop and drop. I think he was going to originally drop from the tournament. Didn't. He ended up playing it out the last round, but ended up giving me the win. So I ended up going 2-1 in round 3, which put me on one of the top tables. Going into round 4, the final round, and I was faced off against Lost Tina. And am I glad this deck is getting hit big time with rotation because of one card. Path to the Peak. Lost Tina is notorious for being able to set up Path to the Peak, preventing your opponent from doing anything. So, yeah, I end up losing game one fairly easily because of it. Now, I was coming back for a potential win in game two. However, my opponent played Roxanne, and I drew 4 cards thinking, because I was looking at playing Roxanne myself, and then from my hand, I shuffled it back, and then I thought I was drawing 6, and I end up taking a double prize penalty here, which was okay. I understood what happened, but that double prize penalty did, in fact, cost me game 2 and the set. So ultimately, I end up with a 2-2 record. Interesting enough, 2-2 was a bubble for 4th, and sadly, I bubbled out. I placed 5th of 12 players in total, sadly missing out on points for this challenge. Now we are proceeding to the next day, actually, going to the 18th of March for a challenge. This is a best of 1 because it is a nighttime event. Like, I get best of 1, best of 3s annoy people. It should all be best of 3, but we did a best of 3 recently at night, and we were only getting 2, maybe 3 rounds out of it, just because it takes so much time. So yes, back to the challenge. It was best of 1, 4 rounds, and there were 13 players. In round 1, I was facing off against a Miraidon Ilecki player. So just basically stack a bunch of, put a bunch of Regielekis out, and then your basic Pokemon do more damage. It is actually a really good deck. However, if you don't spread the energy enough, if you solely put energy just on the one guy, never get Flaffy out like my opponent sadly wasn't able to. I was able to win that game fairly easily. Been able to take the 3 prizes. I do run a Vitality Band in my deck. That means that it's a 6 energy instead of 7 energies to take out a Regieleki V Max. So it does throw things off. Going on to round 2, I was facing off against a Rorimoon. Seeing as I had such good, since I knew now more how to deal with Rorimoon from the day before, this was actually quite easy. Being able to just simply know where to take the knockouts just helps tremendously. So I ended up taking that game. I can't remember actually how many prizes I was down, but I just had more knowledge about how to actually deal with the deck, so I was a bit more comfortable. So moving on to round 3, this is an interesting deck. I had a game against Spidops Venomoth. The main objective of this game is to lock your opponent out of doing almost everything. So they also run Pokemon League Headquarters to increase the attack cost by 1. So it does make things a bit more difficult. I think it's only on basics it increases by 1, but more or less it increases the attack cost. Venomoth confuses you and prevents you from using item cards. Item cards are a big part of the game, so that was sort of an issue. And then Spidops increases retreat cost. So your 1 retreat cost little guy that doesn't do much sort of gets trapped there, and you can't move into something that you actually want to have in the active. I did have an opportunity to potentially get myself out of it. I saw it after the fact, and it was just a big regret. So I ultimately lost that game, but man, getting item locked when you are playing something like Golden Go, where you are drawing all of your item cards, is difficult. Moving on to round 4. I was faced off against another Roaring Moon player. Now, this player has been bouncing around between decks. They were attending regionals, so they were trying to deal with decks leading up to regionals and knowing the strengths and weaknesses. I'm not sure if this player is going to be playing Moon at the next regionals, which will be interesting to see what people are playing. I actually had a chance to play an Avery when they had a full bench, and they discarded the wrong cards. I should have told them afterwards that I thought they discarded the wrong things, but in the moment, I was just like, okay, they need to have these 2 cards stay on the field, discard that instead, and they didn't, and I think that actually cost them because they discarded a Galarian Moltres V instead of discarding a Mew EX, which I think was actually the 2 cards that should have gone rather than what really happened. So I end up actually winning that game, sort of because my opponent didn't have the energy recursion that they actually needed. So with that, I go 3-1. Very interesting thing about this tournament is that the top 5 players all went 3-1. So out of that, my round 1, round 3, and round 4 opponents all got 3-1, and it was very close. Ultimately, I placed second, which was amazing. Wasn't sure how I was going to go, seeing as I lost to one of the other guys, but yeah, I had 2 opponents that also their one loss was against me, so I think that helped me place a bit higher. So that was fantastic. It does mean that I did walk away with 12 points from that tournament, which is amazing. So hopefully I can get some more soon. But moving on to another challenge now. This is from the 24th of March. We did 5 rounds, best of 3. So we start the day, get paired against my round 1 opponent, and we actually had to spend the first couple minutes of the round re-sleeving his deck. He was borrowing this deck from a friend, and 2 sleeves were wrong, so we had to re-sleeve the entire deck, which did let me have a bit of a chance to look at things, because he asked me to assist in changing the sleeves out. So I did see that I was facing off against a Lugia deck. Now, it's not Lugia Cinccino, thankfully, just yet. So it was a Lugia Snorlax build. I think that's the main build at the moment. I rarely actually have to face off against Lugia, so I didn't know which way to take knockouts. Ultimately, I couldn't get the Golden Go swinging hard enough into the Lugia and the Snorlax. Only taking 1 prize card was throwing me off. So I ultimately went 0-2 against this Lugia player once we actually changed his sleeves out. Moving on to round 2, I was facing off against a Chien-Pao deck, but this was Chien-Pao with Baxcalibur, Palkia, and Iron Hands. So it was very much sort of, there were a lot of pieces that needed to be on the field at any times, and they didn't have it. I think they actually had Bibarel in this deck too. One of my opponents at this event had Bibarel, I can't remember which one it was now. But basically they needed so much on the field to power up all their guys that using Radiant Greninja, taking out the little guys, and then swinging in with Golden Go for weakness is a big anything. So I ultimately went 2-0 against this player, and they were slightly new to the game. So I did give him a couple bits of advice, like sequencing how he should have situated things. Moving on to round 3. So I faced against another Chen Pao here, and this was Chen Hands. So this is, I believe it was Chen Pao Baxcalibur Hands, which is a lot better than what I did face in round 2. It's a bit more streamlined, so they need to just get certain things out faster. If you can get an early hands, it does work. So I did drop a game against him, and going 2-1. Chen Hands is it is usually in my favor, I feel like, but it just comes down to those first couple turns, which card sticks out. So moving on to round 4, and here is a last hurrah for Fusion Strike. This is DTE Fusion Strike Mew. Definitely an interesting matchup. I've played the play of the deck multiple times. I honestly thought they were bringing Miraidon, so it did throw me off a little bit when I saw the Fusion Strike. I know how to do the Fusion Strike matchup. It is difficult because it comes down to, well, it mainly came down to, do I take the Genesect or do I get the guaranteed Mew knockout, which was throwing things out. I think it ultimately came down to, I had to push for a game 3. I did lose game 1. I had to push for game 3 with a potential Roxanne into nothing, and I Averied instead. I think I actually drew the Roxanne off the Avery. Can't remember now, but ultimately it didn't work out, and they just had Boss and sort of was able to take the knockout. So yes, I end up losing 0-2 against Fusion Strike for its last tournament, legal tournament in my area. It may still be legal for a little bit longer at certain events. So yeah, that was the last time I'll be facing off against that deck. So moving on to round 5. And I was facing off against Lost Tina. Now this is the same player that I got the double prize penalty at the from the 17th in the last round. So this is my chance to make a comeback. I'm not sure if I should be going first or second. It's weird with my deck at the moment. It's going first, going second. My opponent wanted to go first. Really strange with I wanted to go second game 1 because I didn't want to deal with a turn 1 Cramorant knockout. They go Path to Peak turn 1, and I didn't have my outs, so it was a bit slower getting started until I could get my outs. I did play out as much as possible before I lost game 1. Game 2, I believe I changed it to going first. I was able to get set up a lot easier, and then I was able to come back with a win, taking out the. They had to have Sableye down very early. I got to take Sableye, got to take Comp Phase out, and it just sort of swung it too much in my favor. So I ended up winning game 2. And then game 3, sorry. Path turn 1, going into Greninja, and it's just like, I can't do anything. I gotta try and draw out of it. And ultimately, I was too far behind, not being able to attach energies and attack or do anything. So I ended up losing 1-2, which meant I placed 14th out of 21. I do believe if I won that game, I would have got top 8, which would have been points. So it is a bit of a disappointment that that Giratina Lost Tina matchup didn't go a bit in my favor. But it is the last day. That was the last day for Path of the Peak, and my opponent actually let me recorded a video of me tearing up his Path of the Peak that was out in the field that stopped me from playing Game 3. He wanted to destroy it because he knows how badly Path of the Peak is, so that was actually pretty good, being able to just destroy it. But yeah, ultimately for March, I end up with 12 points, which puts me at 44 points in total for the 2024 Worlds Series. We are running out of events here. I do believe we have 4 cups, a regional, and then 8 challenges, I believe, in total between now and then cutoff. So I do believe that there are no more CP events, so proper league challenges, cups in June. So there'll be a break there. I believe that should be the cutoff. I don't know if that's fully been explained. Someone was saying that, and I haven't read the article fully about the details. So we're looking at potentially 13 events. I believe I'm not going to be able to attend all of them. I will be trying my best to get regionals, which is in a couple weeks. It is the week after EUIC. We have the Perth, Western Australia regionals, which I will be attending. So hopefully I do well there, and then that will sort of be the cutoff for a lot of people, whether they will be able to attend Worlds or not. So next time I will be discussing that. So hopefully you do come back to see that video. But that's going to be it for now. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you are enjoying my journey to a potential Worlds invite. But enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you all next time. See ya.